Hi, hello, and welcome to a video in which you're watching. I had a few thoughts of the difficulty scaling of Pokémon Scarlet and Violet until I had finished this game not too long ago and had been thinking about this for a while. So mind you, this is my personal experience I had while going through the game, so some of the challenges may be harder for others depending on the teams and typings that you chose in the beginning and as you go along, so let's get right into this. I'm just going to go ahead and start off with the list going in the order the game recommends you go through. So that would be number 1. The gym leader, Katie, who is the bug type. Her pre-thing before battling her, relatively easy, nothing super difficult. All you have to do is roll like an inflatable olive through a maze-like thing. And once you get to her, she has her 3 Pokemon. She starts off with the Nimble, which is at level 14. And then she takes out her Tarantula, which is also level 14. And then her last Pokemon is a Teddy Ursa, but she terrestrialized it's a bug, since she's obviously a bug type gym. So relatively easy, you know, if you started off with a Fuecoco, it was nothing hard, or maybe you caught a flying type, or maybe you have a flying type or fire type move that you could use. So she was the first gym I did, because obviously I just walked out when I was like, okay, whatever. I didn't think that there was supposed to be a recommended. I thought like it was scaling, but she was super easy, not too much hard. I had like 3 Pokemon in my team when I battled her, and I chose Brigatito as my first starter, so nothing super hard, at least for your first challenge. So let's go on to the very next one. The next thing is the Stonecliff Titan, which is aka the Claw, and I can't say for myself how hard it was because I did not do it until like my 6th thing, so by then like I was way over level for it. So I mean, I can't say for sure if it was really hard, but I mean, if you pick Quaxley or even Sprigatito, you would have been fine. Even when you pick Fuecoco, I don't even think it's only level 15, so why worry? I mean, I don't think it posed too much of a challenge. It is the first Titan you do. Plus, you know, you get help in your second battle with Arvin, so it's not like it's super hard to do. I mean, Titan battles weren't really hard. It was just kind of, as long as you have the typing, you'll most likely win relatively easy. It's just like any other Pokemon battle. On to the next one. Continuing on with the grass type gym leader, Brassius, talking about his tests before battling him. All you had to do was collect 10 Sunfloras all around, so it's like just a game of hide and seek, no battling necessary, just basically just kind of distracting you until he's ready to battle. A lot of Sunfloras are usually around the same spot, so it's not like you had to really walk around too much. It wasn't too much a hassle. And about his battle, the battle itself wasn't too bad. His first Pokemon is a Petalilli. Then he has a Smoliv, and his last Pokemon which terrestrializes into grass is a Sudowoodo. I mean, I thought it was cool, because you know, usually Sudowoodo isn't a grass type, but I mean, terrestrializing into grass obviously gives it more of a weakness than a strength. So it wasn't too hard of a battle. Even with me, I didn't have a fire type at the time, so I was using a flying type move. But even then, I mean, I could have used any type move because that gym was the 7th thing I did, so I was obviously way over leveled for it because again, as you might hear along, is that I didn't know they were scaling when it came to everything, you know, I thought as you go along everything would just be the same level as you, but I didn't know. So on to the very next one. The Open Sky Titan is very next. This was actually the first thing I did out of all of my stuff. My first Titan, you know. I mean, it's the first thing I did. It's like, if you look on my map, it says it's the first thing. This was the first thing I did. So I did kind of struggle with this, but this is because, obviously, the Titan was like level 20. And I had like level 10, 15 things, so I did need to redo it, but that's just because scaling. I think if you would have obviously the right scaling, and even the right types, because at that time, the only Pokemon I had in my team was a Sprigatito and a Grafarirai, but that was the one that helped me because it was Ice Terrestrialized. So obviously with typings, it helped even with the level 20 Pokemon, because even with typings, I was able to easily take it down, even after it's been almost 10 to 5 levels higher than it should have been. That kind of speaks of how hard it really was if I was able to do it with under-leveled Pokemon than you were supposed to. So, carrying on to the very next. The first Team Star member making it on the list will be the Dark type Giacomo. I don't know if I'm butchering his name, to be honest, I don't know how to say it. Aside from that, I can't really speak on how hard the Team Star members were really, because I pushed it to the very end. Like all 5 were like the ones I did at the very end, and so I can't really say how hard they really were because I was like way over level from where I was supposed to be doing it. I did ask around some of my friends to ask them how they felt about it, and the common consensus of it all was, compared to the gym leaders, they were a little bit harder as they went along, but nothing too difficult that couldn't be overcome with, just typing advantages. So it was nice because it had like a little thing that you didn't really know what was coming next, but it wasn't super difficult. His Pokemon he had was a Ponyard, and obviously like all their last Pokemon is the Starmobile thing, and it's just whatever type they are, so his was a dark type, Reverum. So nothing too difficult, but they obviously do a little more damage and have a possibility of doing have a little more challenge to them compared to, the gym leaders or even the Titans themselves. Continuing on would be the Electric type gym leader Iono, and she wasn't relatively hard for me. She was actually the right level I was supposed to fight her in, so I think I did kind of struggle just a little bit, but nothing too difficult. I had my starter with me who was Florgato at the time, which obviously was relatively easier to do since it was grass and Electro doesn't really do much to grass. The test before the gym match is just a Where's Waldo's game. You just have to look for the guy in the crowd and each little thing. Nothing too hard. I mean, you can really see him. There's not too placed different or too difficult. In the battle herself, it was a Warel. I don't know if I'm butchering the name, but the new bird Pokemon in Paldea. A Belliblob, Alexio, and a Miss Magius, which obviously is her terrestrialized form, which is electric. I think Miss Magius was the only one that kinda gave me a little bit of trouble because of her typing being ghost, and at the time I didn't have anything to deal with the ghost type. So I just kinda had to keep hitting her. I think only one of my Pokemon did faint from her battle, which was my Florgato, since it was the one I had out on the field most of the time. But nothing another Pokemon could have easily just taken her out, so if you're scaling her from difficulty, not super hard, but without the right typing, it can be a little difficult. Right next to the city of Levincia, which will be the next crew member for the fire crew leader. She was relatively easy, obviously, as I said it before, it was super off scaling since that was Team Star was a thing I did push off to the very end. But I mean, she has her Torkoal, which is nothing too difficult, and then like every Team Star, they have the special Starmobile, which is the Reverum with the special fire or whatever typing they are. Nothing too special, nothing too different, and everything else. I mean, it's fire. It's nothing too hard. It has relatively a few weaknesses that water, ground, and I can't think of any other weaknesses other than water and ground at the time. But obviously you get what I mean. Super basic moves that can be used that are super effective against her. She is one of the more basic leaders, I guess. Nothing too difficult about her with her two Pokemon that she has. So getting on to the next one. The very next one is the Steel Titan, aka Earthworm. Over leveled for obviously this battle. All other battles, as you'll see, I'll be either over leveled or under leveled, but even then I was still able to do it. Earthworm itself wasn't relatively hard to battle. I didn't have a fire type at the time, so I was using a water type and ground type move, I think. I mean, if I were to compare to the other Titans, was it hard? No. Was it easy? Depends on if you have the good typing, and even I was overscaled for this, but even if I was underscaled, I mean, I was able to easily take out the other bird Titan, so it wasn't super hard, and even if then, I feel like I would have been able to do it. It would probably take me another try, just after I figure out what typing it was, because obviously a lot of them are just new Pokemon, so I didn't know what typing they were. I thought it was, it's just a steel type, but then you end up learning it's a ground steel, so when you learn about its type, it just makes it a lot way easier too. Going on to the very next one. Continuing on, we have the water gym leader, Kofu. His pre-test that you had to do was just basically bidding for him to get like materials for his food. I think it was seaweed, I don't remember exactly. But it was just, he just gave you money and you just use the money, and whatever money you had at the end, you can just keep it yourself. His battle himself, I would say like really easy, if not super easy. Like, I don't want to hate on him, but he was the second gym leader that I did. So basically my team was either like level 20 or 25. At the time I only had 3 Pokemon on me, and my Florgato was able to easily wipe out his team with either 1 or 2 hits. He has a Veluza, do not know if I pronounced that right, the Wig Trio, and Crabominal. Crabominal did give me a little trouble since it was fighting and ice and then it terrestrialized to water, so it would give a little bit of a problem. Even then, I just switched into my Dynamo, easily just whacked it out of the way. Super easy. I mean, he's supposed to be like number 9 on the recommended list, but he's the second gym leader that I did, and like the third thing out of everything I did, so as I was going on in the game. Super easy, not even difficult. Let's continue on. Next up is the Poison type Star team leader. He was easy, like I've said already. I did the Team Stars people like at the very end, so obviously I was over leveled. And not much to say about him really. It's just poison types. It was nothing super hard. He had a skunk tank, a river room, a muck, and then the special Star Mobile river room, which was also poison. Like I say, technically he had two. Well, I guess the first one was just steel poison, while this one is just poison. They're level 30s, nothing too difficult, just the same. Like all the other crews, he did put up a little more of a fight, I guess, as I asked around my other friends. So let's just get on to the next one. Going into my favorite gym leader out of all of them, or in general, one of my favorite characters, Larry, the normal type gym leader. Though, if we're talking scaling levels and just in general, like levels of how hard he is, I would put my money on him. I literally did him right after Kofu, so like, I was under leveled, and even though he's normal and normal's only weakness is fighting, it was relatively easy, nothing too difficult to deal with. Though his pre-test before was super annoying, where he had to talk with almost everyone in the restaurant about his preferred meal style. Logistically, I probably could have looked it up or tried it, but at the same time, I don't like looking up stuff unless I really need to, so I just went around the restaurant talking to the customers, figured it out, nothing too difficult, just annoying. Starting off, he uses a Kamala, and then he uses a Dunsparce, and then his Staraptor, which is the flying normal, and then he terrestrializes into normal, so it's still normal type anyways. Even then, his Pokemon are relatively easy. I used my Electrike literally just for it because my Electrike had a fighting type move, I believe, or it was my Lycanroc and then my Electrike together, and it was just relatively easy, nothing hard. I mean, if I was able to do it like right after Kofu, which meant I was like barely level 30, maybe like 25 something, nothing too hard. The next gym up in the cold mountains would be Rhyme and her ghost gym. I mean, I like the double battles. That's all I can really say about it. Wasn't my favorite. It was really easy. You just are basically, for her test, you're just the warm-up act for her concert type situation. You just battle a few people, and then you do a double battle. She has a Mimikyu, a Bayonet, a Houndstone, and a Toxicity, which is a Terrortype Ghost. That's really all I can really say about it. It was super easy. My Masquerade had a Shadow Claw, and then it basically just one-shot everything. It went 1, 2, 3, just like super fast, and I had Electrike just because obviously it was a double battle, so at the time it was just Electrike, it was just there doing some damage, but my Masquerade kind of carried everything. I do like her character design, but she was super easy. Like, I mean, to begin with, Ghost can be easy. Just for me, I got lucky, and my Masquerade was like the Pokemon I overpowered the most because I use it a lot. And for it to be able to learn a Ghost type move, which was able to easily take it down, plus it also had Play Rough, so it had a Fairy type move, so it was super easy for me. I think I was over the level I was supposed to be. You're supposed to be level 40 when you fight her. I was level 50, so that can also be another reason. Even then, I think she is not super hard, and I do like the mechanic of the double battles, but it doesn't really make a difference or help. So let's go on right to the next one. The Earth Titan is the next one. The funny thing was, I tried doing the Earth Titan as my first thing because I was just walking that way anyway, so I was like, oh, I'll do it. Yeah, no, I wasn't able to because like my Pokemon were level 15, and obviously you should be recommended to be a little bit higher because that's, I don't even remember what it was, I think it was like around like level 40, so that didn't work. It came back to it later, but still. I found it funny that I tried doing it first with my level 15 Pokemon because, you know, I went the opposite direction from which way I should have went. I should have went that way, the other, basically almost the opposite direction. But even then, when I came back with the proper scaling level, it was easy. As I keep repeating, obviously, I really enjoyed the Sprigatito, Florgato, Meowscarada evolution line, so it was the one I used the most in each of the battles because, especially since it can learn at least one type of every hitting move, so I thought it was really useful. But it also depended on which version you have. I was doing Scarlet, so obviously I got Great Tusk. But if you do the other one, you get Iron Tusk, so just depends. But even then, super easy, nothing too difficult when you have the right levels and the super effective move. So let's go on to the next one. The next one is the Psychic type Gym Leader Tulip. The test that you do before challenge her is just like a warm-up type situation when you press a button that corresponds to the emotion. Personally, I did miss a few of the buttons that went with the emotion, so I wasn't 100% sure if you had to get 100% or if not, but I did miss a few, so that's that. Now about the actual gym match. Her first two Pokemon, which is for Rigorath and Espathra, super easy, nothing really too difficult, it's just a Psychic type, so I didn't really have anything to worry about. Though her second two Pokemon would give me a little bit of trouble, which was her Carnivore and her Terrestrialize. Pokemon, which was Gloss. Just the Psychic Fairy combination didn't give me a little bit of trouble because of the typings I didn't have the proper types to deal with it, so it did give me a little bit of trouble, but it was one of the few matches that I did have to end up using Revive mid-battle because I needed to revive 2 of my Pokemon because they died out a little bit earlier than I would have liked. So if I were to scale it to the other gym leaders, I guess she would be the harder one. But I guess if I did have the proper typings to help me with our battle, I think it would have been easy. But I didn't, and even then without it, I was still able to. I just had to use 2 revives. On to the next one. Going on with the Ice Gym Leader Gushra. The test that you do before battling him is not even a challenge. It's basically just go have fun in the snow. But just to give him time to get ready, basically. It's like, as this being the last gym move, but just see as most of the tests beforehand are just kind of like to keep you busy while the gym leader gets themselves ready. It's interesting to think about, but obviously it's not really a challenge. So once you slide the snowy slope, you get on to your battle. His first Pokemon he takes out is a Frostmoth, then a Beartic, a Cetitan, and his last is an Alteriary, which Terror types to Ice. Ranking difficulties, he's somewhat on the topper list, I guess, if you were to compare him to the other ones. I did lose one of my Pokemon throughout the whole battle, but it wasn't too difficult. Just one. I mean, Tulip took out at least 2 of my Pokemon, so he's not too high up there. I did like it because, you know, it's Ice, and Ice is one of my favorite types. And his Pokemon choice I also like, you know, you never see them all too often, especially since the Titan is new and the other 3 are from past generations. So on to the next one. The next one is the Fairy Star Leader, Ortega. His battle itself was nothing too difficult, I guess, if you were to compare him to the other ones. Though Fairy is one of my favorite typings, and I don't want to, even though he wasn't the best battle, obviously I don't want to diss on Fairy itself, because Fairy is a strong typing, but his battle itself was nothing too extraordinary. His Pokemon lineup was an Azurill, a Wigglytuff, a Ducksponge, and in the Fairy type Rivaroom, the Starmobile specialty. I mean, I had a Poison type on my team, so I think that just helped with it being super easy. If you just have a super effective move, you can easily just 1 or 2 shot it. Most of the battles and challenges this generation is nothing too difficult, if I am to say so myself, but if it's super effective, it just makes it so much easier. So let's just get on to the next one. The False Dragon Titan recommends you have at least a level 55 Pokemon. I didn't do it at level 55, I did it like a level 40 because I wanted the climbing mechanism on my Koraidon. So I tried it, super easy. I feel like the hardest thing about the battle was trying to find out where the heck the Titan was. I had no idea about it since it was my first walkthrough, and I don't like looking through anything, and it was like the first few days, so I'm pretty sure there wasn't much online about it anyways, even if I were to look it up. So I think the hardest thing about the battle was literally just trying to find it. So all I did was just fight, obviously, the Tatsugiri island, and I took out half the little island of Tatsugiris till I figured out that I find the one that you need, and then I drew the battle. I used, obviously, my Meowscarada with the flower trick, super easy, super quick, and then the next battle when I use with the help of Arvin, nothing super difficult. Even with the special Tatsugiri buff, it does not do much. It just makes it stay alive a little longer. That's all it really did. It didn't do much damage to me. And the battle itself wasn't too difficult, so let's just get on to the next one. The last out of this list and the last star member is Eri. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Anyways, she was the only star crew member that I did that kind of was around my level, so I feel like if I were to rank them, she was, you know, she's the first, like, top of the list. On difficult, she is fighting. She starts off with a Toxicroak, and then she pulls out her Pessamin, I don't know if I pronounced that right, and in the Nihilate, Lucario, and in the special Starmobile fighting Rivaroom. She was able to do some damage and knock out a few of my Pokemon, but I was able to come out victorious in the end, so let's go on to the finals. I'm going to talk a little bit about the champion, Elite Four, and just all about that battles in general. So the person you first start fighting off is Rika. She is a ground type. She is relatively easy. I thought it was going to have a little more difficulties compared to other Elite Fours where, you know, you have to think a little more and they're going to be hitting you and keep hitting you or not. That's how it usually is. This time around, I did notice that some of them were mainly just using like effective status moves just to like boost them or light screen or stuff like that. Nothing like attack moves, so I didn't really lose many Pokemon as throughout the whole battle. And you were allowed to change your Pokemon too, so that was interesting. But her first Pokemon was a Whiscash. I thought it was gonna have a little difficulty since it is the water ground, but it was relatively easy. Then she does a Camerupt, a Donphan, a Dugtrio, and her terrestrialized Pokemon is Codsire, which is already ground, so it's ground poison, nothing too special about it. Secondly is Poppy. She's a little one, and her specialized is Steel. I don't want to hate on her, but her team was kind of sad. Nothing super spectacular. She first takes out the Copperya, then her Bronzong, a Crovenite, a Magnezone, and in her terrestrialized Pokemon, which is her Tinkaton. Nothing really special here. I didn't really struggle too much with her, especially since I had an Armarouge, which helped me. The third elite member would be Larry, of course Larry, and this time around, he isn't normal, he is flying type. And his first Pokemon is a Tropius, then Alteriary, Staraptor, an Oricorio, the Pom-Pom style, which is the electric flying, and the last one is the Flamingo, which terra types the flying. So it's a flying fighting type. First time around, Larry wasn't hard. Second time around, wasn't even hard any harder than it was. I liked how he kept the Staraptor at least since his first battle and added on to it, but nothing too difficult, I would say. I mean, you can easily just use an electric type move on these people and they would most likely get one-shotted or two-shotted like I did with my Electros. The last Elite Four would be Hazel. His typing, he specializes in his Dragon type. See, compared to other Dragon type, I thought I was going to have a little bit of struggle because, you know, past Dragon type Elite Fours or gym leaders tend to have, you know, to be the stronger ones, but not this case. He starts off with a Noivern, and then he does his Dragalade, a Flapple, Haxorus, and Baxcalibur. I think that's how you say it. The newer one, which is his Terrestrialize, which obviously it's already a Dragon type, so it's just Ice Dragon. The specialty about it is that Rika, she heals your team back to full after this battle, so that you have a full healed team before the champion. Which I don't remember, but most champions, you tend to just go on how you are, so you kind of just have to have a lot of potions on yourself, but that's the Elite Four. I mean, compared to other Elite Fours, I feel like this wasn't too difficult, but I don't know, this was just a me thing. Maybe it's just I had typings, because I think whenever I make a team, I like to at least have one of every type, so I have like my back covered. Now on about the actual champion, Gita. I'm sorry, but I don't want to be mean to her, but she is a champion who is not the very best. See, I thought she would put up a little more of a fight, but no, really. One is an Espathria, then an Avalugg, a King Gambit, and then a Go-Go, a Valuzela. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's a water psychic new fish type from Paldea, and then her Glamora, which is her Terrestrialize, which she terrestrialized into rock, but it's already rock, so it's rock poison. I thought I was gonna have a little more trouble. I wasn't expecting her to be like, you know, like super difficult. I mean, obviously we had Cynthia, who's like our Lance and all that stuff, but obviously I don't want to compare her to other past champions, but if I were to compare them, she is probably on almost at the end of the list of, you know, strong champions. My final thoughts on her and the whole Elite Four in general is just, it wasn't hard. Like, if you have the proper super effective moves and the proper Pokemon, even then I feel like if you didn't have the super effective moves, I don't think you would struggle too much, but just having the extra super effective just helps. After disbanding Team Star and defeating the 5 star leaders, you are to go back to Mesagoza and you're entering the school. Director Cavil, I don't know how to pronounce his name, is to stop you and he is to battle you and he is to say he is Cassiopeia. I don't know how to pronounce that either. And you are to fight him. His first Pokemon is an Oranguru, his second one is an Abomasnow, his third is a Gyarados, his fourth is an Amoonguss, his fifth is a Poltergeist, and his sixth is a starter Pokemon that you or Nimona did not pick. So if you pick Meowscarada, it will be Skeleddridge. If you pick Skeleddridge, it'll be Kixquavel. And if you pick Kixquavel, then it'll be Meowscarada. Basically just like the one that's super effective against you, and the leftover one. His battle wasn't really hard. Obviously, he's the pre-battle. It's just like the pre-battle that you do before the actual, until you learn who the actual boss is of Team Star. The Penny is the Team Star leader, like the main leader. And her teams are just full of the evolutions. She has an Umbreon is her first, and a Flareon, Jolteon, Vaporeon, Leafeon, and then her terrestrialized Pokemon is Sylveon, which Terra types the fairy. I don't want to hate on evolutions, but the battle was super simple, like super easy. I mean, obviously she's not known for battling. She's just she's relatively smart, so obviously I wouldn't bag too much on her for a battle being super easy, but then again, there's much you can't do about it. Her battle itself is super easy. I mean, it's just the evolutions. As much as I love them, obviously, if you put them all together, you'll just be in a little more trouble since you have a little bit of less typing situation. And that's the last two battles that you do about this Team Star mission on trying to disband the gang. I'll keep it short and sweet about Arven's battle. It was relatively easy. Not even relatively easy, it was really easy. Unless your Pokemon are severely underleveled, his battle is really easy. Obviously, it's just basically the same Pokemons that he used when helping you fight the Titans, and that is a Gradient, a Scorvillain, a Gargantual, the big rock dude, the new one, a Toadskull, the Cloyster, and his new and improved Mobosniff, I don't know if I'm saying that's right, and which is the one that terrestrialized, and it's a dark type with the dark terrestrialized. Nothing super hard about his battle. It was relatively easy. I was able to do it with like 2 Pokemon. And with that, after battling him, you are to go to Area 0 once you complete both the champion route and the star team route to get the help of Penny and Nimona. And that's what I'll carry on to, so that's the next we'll go to. The final battle with the AI professor, depending on which version you chose, either the Scarlet or Violet. I did Scarlet, so with the Professor Sato, her Pokemon are obviously Silverwing, Screamtail, Brute Bonnet, Fluttermane, Sandy Shock, and Roaring Moon. I struggled with this battle, but I think that was because I didn't know the typings of the new Pokemon. I knew a little bit about some of them I didn't, and then obviously since like one of the first time seeing them, I struggled a little bit, but even then it was like, even if I knew the typings right, I think I would have been fine. I mean, the battle itself was interesting, and I did lose a few Pokemon during the battle, so I wouldn't say it was completely easy, but I wouldn't say it was super hard to the point where I had to restart the whole battle. And I didn't do Violet version, but the Violet version Pokemon are Iron Moth, Iron Bundle, Iron Hands, Iron Jugulis, Iron Thorns, and Iron Valiant. Obviously I don't know too much about it, but I'm guessing it's probably the same thing. Nothing too difficult. Now, obviously, depending on which version you got, it would be the battle of Miraidon versus Miraidon and the battle for Koraidon versus Koraidon. I'm pretty sure you're obviously going to win that battle no matter what, so I don't think there's too much to talk about it, but yeah, you win it either way with Miraidon or Koraidon depending on which one you have. So the battle itself wasn't super hard, so I would say it's like middle. Nothing too difficult, nothing too easy at the same time if you don't know the typings of the Pokemon. On to my final evaluation. My final conclusion to it would be that the game is overall easy. Whether you are to go through the suggested route by the game or to do it in which order you would like I did. It is still a very fun game, and I would recommend it for someone who's starting off with Pokemon, because some of the games can be very difficult in the end. I'm looking at you, Cynthia. Anyways, that's all for now, and thanks for watching to the end, and bye-bye.